We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday, and on this show, we're bringing on board Jace from Texas. Now, Jace has been on before, and always a great show to talk with him. He comes from an interesting perspective. He's down in Texas, and we know the shit going on down in Texas. But welcome, Jace. Thanks for helping me out today.
Well, hey, Mike, thanks for having me back, man. I'm looking forward to it. I listen to the show every day. Looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Um, as I was telling you just before we came on, something just came out over the news, and we're recording this on Friday night. So this is why it just came across. Uh, Donald Trump got warned when he was arraigned to not talk, to keep his mouth shut, not make threats, not cause problems, and do all that kind of shit. So the first chance he gets, he goes off and does it anyway. He posted something on Truth Social that said, you come after me, I'm going to come after you. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think the last two people he wants to fuck with are Jack Smith and Judge Chutkan down in D.C. because they aren't going to have it. They are no nonsense people. But apparently, Jack Smith has now asked for a protective order. And he's not worried about his own safety. What he's worried about is now he's going to have to turn over all the discovery, the evidence. And we need to know what Donald Trump means by that. Does that mean he's going to throw it up on Truth Social, all this evidence, and blow things up? Because he certainly is capable of doing that, and his lawyers certainly don't have any control over him. But are you surprised things starting to get controversial already a day after he gets fucking indicted
No,
or
not at all.
arraigned?
Not at all. This is, I mean, Donald Trump lives in a wrestling world. He lives in that make believe world where it's like his world and we all live in it. But this doesn't surprise me at all. When I think the judge told him that because she knew what to expect. You
Right.
know, Jack Smith seen this. I mean, it's like people that get surprised by Trump's actions. Have you not been paying attention for the last few years? Oh, he did this, he said that. I mean, if you're surprised at anything that man does, you haven't been paying attention.
He's like an incorrigible child.
Yes.
You punish them. But I think you were right in something you said before. One of the reasons he gets away with this, and this still seems to be the case to a certain extent, he's never really been held accountable in his life, so he doesn't know any better. He figures if he has a tantrum like he's had all the other times before, people will just give in and give him his way. But he's running into a different situation now. He's in a bigger arena, and the government isn't afraid of him, and the legal system isn't afraid of him. And I think he's pretty confused at this point.
Well, they give Joe a lot of stuff upon call him Sleepy Joe and stuff.
Yeah,
Joe's a sharp motherfucker.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I agree.
he's not as fast as he was, but who is?
Yeah, I'm not.
But but they have those comparisons between like Obama saying that terrorist name. I don't know. It's probably been on YouTube or TikTok, and it's like Trump's like who saw. I mean, it's like he doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And another thing you're talking about, I don't think I read something that he may not be smart enough to realize the shit he's in. I mean, he's like a child. Yesterday in I think it was Ari Miller I was listening to, they were talking about how they were asking him his age. He couldn't say 77. He had to say 77.
Right.
Like
Right.
he's almost afraid of his age, but he's never been held accountable for. He's had a silver spoon, to use the old cliche. He's had it his whole life. His parents gave him everything. He started out with a small loan of $1 million. I mean,
Which
according to him,
actually
himself.
turned into about $400 million.
Yeah, exactly. He
It's a,
can't even tell the truth about that.
no, I mean, if somebody gave me $400 million when I was in my 20s, I'll guarantee you I'd be rich now. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be broke. I wouldn't have run through it, but that's what he did. And so he'd run through it. It's almost like the Enron case. He got to the point where he was too big to fail, so people just kept sending him money. It was either daddy or other rich people or Russia or whatever. He was too valuable as a puppet. They didn't want to let him fail. And that's what he's lived through all this time. And now he's in a situation where, like I say, he's in a bigger pond. He's a smaller fish in a big pond now, and people just aren't going to save him, especially for how far down the road he's gone.
And Jack Smith is used to this. He's used to dealing with terrorists and terroristic threats. So it's not
Yeah.
like this is his first ball game. I think Merrick Garland did the right thing in hiring him, but I think he waited too damn long because
I did.
Trump's got a point. Why did they wait 2.5 years? A lot of people like to know that. I'm not agreeing with him, but we know the courts run slow. But the work that Jack Smith's done in the short time he's had this, I mean, this could have been done a year ago.
Well, it's funny. One of the lawyers keeps saying, we need a lot of time to investigate this and go through the evidence. They had 3.5 years to do this investigation. I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think Merrick Garland did jack shit. I think we found out he didn't do jack shit until, I'm sorry, Merrick Garland didn't do jack shit until Jack Smith came on board. And Jack Smith came on board in November of last year. So we're talking about 10 months of investigations and discovery and all that shit. So I watched these lawyers for Donald Trump. One guy went on yesterday or the day before, and he basically implicated Donald Trump, saying Donald Trump did this. He picked choice D. And what he explained that Donald Trump did was a fucking crime. I can't imagine that this lawyer is that stupid, or they've just given up on the whole legal aspect and they're just trying to play this out in the court of public opinion. They know they can't win legally speaking. I don't know. I don't get what they're doing.
Well, if you're a lawyer worth any kind of salt, you should realize that you should be prepared for this because the January 6th committee has been talking about this shit for, longer than Merrick Garland. I mean, I think that put pressure on him to do that.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, and you have Fox News. Well, nobody cares about January. There's a whole lot of people that care about January 6th. And it just gets me. I was driving today, and of course I'm in Texas, and I saw a guy that he didn't have an FJB flag on his truck. He had the fuck Joe Biden on his flag, and he had it on his back of his like a window sticker.
Classy.
And yeah, and I'm like, well, if there's one place you can probably get away with that, it's Texas or Florida.
Yeah.
But it's like, and you probably see a "We Back the Blue" sign on there too. What do you have the Republicans doing now? They wanted to fund the DOJ. They wanted to fund the FBI. Beto O'Rourke got crucified for talking about he said it like one time about defunding the police. And that was, maybe something, I mean, I don't agree with. You got to have police, but I mean, they were beating up officers on January 6th.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, they were beating them up with flagpole. Or I mean, it's atrocious what they did. I mean, atrocious being a nice word for it. But it's like, this guy is probably claims to be a born again Christian with that flag on there.
No
Probably
doubt.
blacks the blue, but he probably gives, he's probably one of those people that keeps donating to Trump because, greatest witch hunt ever. I mean, there's so much stupidity, I mean, it's you're as smart as the person that leads you, and I think that pretty much sums it up.
Well, it does. And like you said, Donald comes off to me, he's a child. Whenever I hear him say things, I will hear media people say, well, is he just misspeaking or is this some political strategy? There is no strategy with Donald Trump when he speaks. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that sees it, but he just says what comes out of his mouth. He pulls it out of his ass. Everything is reactionary. Everything is emotional. If you step on his toe, he's going to stomp on your toe, and it's all reactionary. And because of that, it comes off so childish. I mean, some of the things he says, like this coming out and saying, if you come after me, I'll come after you. What are we supposed to be worried about that? Are we scared of you now, Donald? Donald, you're on the fucking run now. You're on your way out. Nobody's afraid of you anymore, especially some of the people around you, because when it comes to taking you down, it's not Democrats taking you down. It's your inner circle. It's your staff. It's your fellow Republicans. Those are the only ones that have given up evidence.
And the thing that pisses me off about Trump, Biden can misspeak or say something, uh, anybody can misspeak, but Trump's not held accountable for what he says. I mean,
No.
he literally, when he was president, got up there and he was literally asking, "Can we inject bleach in people?"
Oh yeah.
I had people that I consider friends of mine that aren't stupid literally look me in the face and tell me I was full of shit, that he didn't say that. I mean, I know I'm full of shit. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that.
Me
But
too. I will.
I know what I heard. And it's like and it's like, well, Trump's a good Christian man. So the same Christian man that said John McCain is looking up from hell.
Right. Right.
I mean, I don't consider myself a Christian now, but I was raised Christian. And I just don't remember. And I remember, hey, when somebody talks like that, that's not very Christian of them to say that. But he's
Well,
not held accountable even by the media. He's not taken to task because there's like something they're afraid of him. And when he does this thing about these threats, I mean, it's like, I mean, if God, can you imagine if, the evil Hunter Biden came in and said something like that? I
yeah.
mean, my God, it would be all over it. And I don't think it's fatigue, but the press, liberal too, they give him a pass because I think we've been conditioned to it, and it's bull. It pisses me off because it still pisses me off, and I just think we're so accustomed to it, and that scares me.
Well, yeah, I think the media is a huge problem with this. Trump has gotten away with so many things. I blame Donald Trump being president on the media because the left side media gave him a lot of credibility by putting him on all the time. And they put him on all the time because he was good TV and it meant ratings. It had no bearing on whether it was good for the country or whether it was truth. They put him on. They never pressed him on any crazy shit they did. If they had
And
pressed
they
him
still
just a little
don't.
bit,
And
no, they don't.
no,
And they don't press anybody. Well, there's a few people that do, but
yeah,
you really got to fight back. If you've got, I've always likened this to the Democrats with the Republicans. It's like the Democrats are fighting under the Marcus of Kingsbury or Queensbury rules, where you stand up there and box like the old British boxers
yeah.
against a fucking South Central thug gangster. You're not going to win. These people are going to tear you apart. So you have to kind of adapt to the way they fight in order to fight with them. And that's kind of the reason I do what we do with the Rational Boomer, get down to their level a little bit and actually fight with them, because if you don't push them back, they'll just keep coming. They'll just keep coming, and unless you can strike some fear into them or concern that they're going to get a fight, because they're cowards, they don't want to fight.
And I think Joe's doing that. Like,
He's starting
did you
to.
see Fox? Did you see Fox lose their shit about the Dark Brandon coffee cup?
No, I didn't see how they reacted.
Does he know that it's on TikTok? I think Muscles shared it, or somebody shared it, and he was like, "But Brandon's a cut down. He doesn't know that. I mean, like they were trying to pretty much say that he's stupid. Oh, Joe knows exactly what he's doing because I saw that and I saw the cup because I'm on Twitter and I got a thing from and I donate and I've donated to Joe. I mean, I'll admit it.
Yeah.
I did. I've donated to Republicans in the past when they had a spine and morals. But I mean, and it's like, man, that is a cool cup. I mean, he's embraced what they've done. And it's like it's like I told you in that email, he's like the freaking road runner and they're the coyote trying to catch up with this.
That's
For
really true.
somebody that's sleepy as he is supposed to be, boy, he sure is a criminal mastermind. And and to get back to you about Donald Trump, um, I have a little bit, I mean, maybe not a disagreement with you, I guess. I think not only did the James Comer, is that the Comer that was the attorney general that did the Hillary thing?
Oh, you're thinking
I think
Comer
Yeah,
is
Comey.
the
Yeah.
representative.
So if there was one person, and I know this because I heard about her since Bill Clinton, that Trump could have beat, it was Hillary. They have vilified that woman
Yeah.
so much. And all they did is trade her emails for Hunter's laptop. It's just it's a something. They did this with Pelosi because I know, because I used to drink the Kool Aid. I was a Rush Limbaugh ditto. Oh no, I wasn't a ditto head. I disagreed with him sometimes, but I listened to him and stuff. And if you go back, they tried so hard to destroy Hillary that I think they succeeded.
Oh,
And
they
I
did.
think, yeah, And I don't really blame the media as much as I do that. If there was one person, and I voted for one person that Trump could have been beat, as Hillary. And I think that, Biden was the one that can beat Trump, and I think he's going to beat him again. I think that Trump's going to be the nominee because I don't think he thinks he has a choice unless he, keels
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. The thing is that this is the whole strategy of Republicans. They don't argue policy. They don't argue ideology. They had Hillary Clinton. They tried to smear her with the 33,000 emails, and it worked, even though after the fact they proved nothing. She wasn't indicted. Nothing happened.
And
Now
she
it's,
testified.
yeah,
She didn't plead the fifth.
no, she talked because she knew she was innocent. But then in 2020, they did the same thing. They went to Ukraine and say, get us some dirt on Biden. That's all they did. And now coming to 2024, it's more getting dirt on Biden and Hunter Biden, which is so ridiculous because what they're going after and have yet to prove anything was something that came up during the Trump administration that the FBI even then said, yeah, there's nothing here. They are so desperate to find something to smear Joe Biden, they have to go back in history to something that's already been looked at and passed on by their own people, and they're pulling it out. They don't care if it's real. They're just trying to make noise. And if they can make noise and stain Joe Biden, that's what they're trying to do. But they've got to be just losing their shit right now because it's not working. They're getting embarrassed every time they turn around.
I disagree. I think it is working.
Really?
To a point, because you see the economies, the jobs and stuff, and I know we don't agree in polls and stuff, but
No.
goddamn, Joe deserves some kind of break on that. I mean, the guy's done a good job. I mean, I just, I mean, maybe it's being from Texas, but I can count on maybe one hand the fellow Dems I have that are like me. Most people down here are Republican. I live in a blue city,
Right.
but it's just, oh, Trump could, rob a bank on video, and they will, hey, what about Joe and taking that money from. I mean, you tell one guy at a bar, I mean, a lot of it's not being educated, but that's more prevalent than I think a lot of people realize. I guess a red state it is because, I mean, my God, you have all this stuff that Trump's done, but they're worried about, somebody who's not even president's laptop, and it's like, I try to, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer because, I was really worried about the 2022 midterms,
Yeah.
but I found you and I listened to you and a couple other. But you had a lot of people, including like Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project, that were saying it's going to be a red wave. I like the Lincoln Project. I like Rick Wilson, but I had to kind of turn them down. I have to turn them down now because I think that they're kind of becoming part of the media to where they're trying to
Absolutely.
thrive, and they used to be above that. Like they're becoming kind of part of it now because they're not really Democrats, and
No.
I don't support anybody that's not a Democrat. When I go in for something, I'm hardcore. I was a hardcore, well, Republican. When I believe in something. And Liz Cheney, she did a great job, but I'd never vote for her. And Rick Wilson, these people don't. They still consider themselves Republicans, and I don't know how you can consider yourself a Republican. But it's to get back to my point, I just see it more and more. People seem, and I think the Republicans, when you don't have to think or do your research, it's easy for you to believe something.
Oh,
Hell,
yeah.
I used to think Hillary killed Vince Foster. My God, I thought that for a long time.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, it's, there was, Rush would always say, hey, well, there's rumors about, cocaine being the White House, Clinton. I mean, my God, Bill Clinton got more crap than any president, one of the best presidents. And it's like, it's just they keep doing this. And I think it's succeeding in a way because they keep winning elections, not as many, but there is no way anybody with a right mind should vote Republican, but still, they still win elections. They still keep states like Texas and Florida red. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, Texas is going to be, it's purple. No, Texas is red because you have a thing like Uvalde and Governor Abbott still gets elected overwhelmingly in that. I mean, I just think, Mike, that not to disagree with you, but I think it's working than a lot of people realize.
No, you're more than welcome to disagree. My wife just said nobody can disagree with you. And I go, well, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about right and wrong, there is no middle ground. And opinions are, we're all on speculation here. We don't
Yeah, yeah.
you don't know, I don't know any more than you do, but I did something on TikTok today because I get a lot of I try to explain things and break it down to simple terms to get people to really think about what they're talking about, or what they're hearing. And I did this on TikTok and it actually got a pretty good response. First of all, there are three fears out there in this country right now. First of all, that Donald Trump will not be held accountable. People today will even say to me, "Oh, nothing's ever going to happen. He's not going to be held accountable. He'll slip out from it like every other time." And I said, "Well, you can say that based on what you hear on the media, but let's look at the facts." He's been charged with 75, 78 felony charges right now.
More coming.
Before it's all said and done, we could be at 150, easily be at 150. Okay, now each of the people that have charged him, Bonnie Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Jack Smith, they all have a 98 to 99% conviction rate. Okay. They don't charge somebody unless they feel really confident that they're going to win. Now the question is, okay, let's say you got 100 felony charges. How many of those convictions, how many convictions do you need to shut him down? Just one, not 20, not 50, not 80, just one. So if you look at it statistically, what are the odds that Donald Trump will run the table against legitimately competent people when he in fact committed the crimes? So he's going to go down. There is no question about it. And one conviction, whether it be 5 years or 20 years, that's it for him. He's done. He's out of the picture after that. And then they always say, well, he can run from jail. He could be the president. Let's look at that. 2020, he loses by 7 million votes. 2022, he endorses a bunch of people. They all lose. There's no red wave. But still, somehow, they think he's got a chance not only to be the nominee, but to win the presidential election. My question is always this: from 2020 to now, up to 2024, what has he done to gain support and votes? He's done nothing but lost support and lost votes. The best thing that could happen to the Democrats is if he is the candidate, because he lost by 7 million last time. He'll probably lose by 10 million this time or more. So, people are really, honestly, I get people agonizing about this and getting anxious about it. I'm really worried about it. I go, don't worry. He's going to get convicted. He's not going to get elected. And then the last thing they say to me is, yeah, but if he doesn't get in, Ron DeSantis or somebody else just as bad will get in. Here's my theory on this. The Republicans have been so far up Donald Trump's ass for so long. As Donald Trump goes, that's how the Republicans will go. He will take this whole fucking thing down with him. With all the things that are going to come out, ultimately, some members of Congress, I'm convinced that are going to get indicted. Ginny Thomas, Roger Stone, too. It's going to be a mad shit show between now and 2024. So much is going to come out. The Republicans are going to have a hard time showing up. I hope Donald Trump holds on to the waning days of the election, because it'll just mess that Republican Party. I honestly believe, based on logic and facts and what I see, that come 2024, it's going to be a big day for Democrats in the House, in the Senate, and in the presidential election. And then after that, the Republicans will go, shit, we fucked up. We should probably do something. And then I likened it to a young baseball team or football team that will be in the rebuilding years and the reimagination years for the next 3 to 10 years before they can become viable, because nobody will trust them.
I used to be in that first part, the first one you mentioned about him not being held accountable
Yeah.
until the classified documents case. When I saw that, and of course, I've always been a political junkie. It used to be Fox, and We talked about O'Reilly the other day. I used to like O'Reilly. O'Reilly used to make some sense, but I have graduated to Rachel Maddow, and when she's on, MSNBC is just better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm an MSNBC junkie. I listen to them all day. I listen to your podcast on the way to work. I listen to Ari, then I listen to Lawrence, and I listen to Morning Joe. Joe Scarborough, he gets on my nerves a little bit, but he's one of the good Republicans, if there's such a thing left.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot.
yeah,
There's a
he's
lot
still
of guys on
identified.
There's a lot of guys on MSNBC I like, and there's some I don't like. Joe irritates me a little bit because he won't shut up.
Yeah,
There's some other ones that are really good. I think Andrea Mitchell needs to fucking retire and go on vacation with Dianne Feinstein because she's losing it. She was a
yeah.
great reporter for many years, but you know, you got to recognize when you've had enough. There's another guy on in the morning. His name is Jose Ballart. I just don't like him because he comes off so fucking cheesy. He comes off so 90s anchor. He's probably a good guy and a good reporter. I'm just not a fan of his.
Yeah, I think they got a star in like Nicole Wallace, and also
Oh,
I had
absolutely.
Nicole Wallace. Though the thing about her is I had to quit listening to her because all she talks about is Trump, and it's like not until these indictments came down I could start listening again. I mean, it's like I was kind of in that thing. Nothing's ever going to happen because it was so long. I am not in that. I am not in that boat anymore, and I do think that Joe. And I told you the email the other day. I think he'll win by more. Now, there's one I want to ask you about. Now we've all heard about, Manchin. What's his name? Our guy from West Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
Manchin.
is
Joe Manchin.
what is that party he's in with
Um,
Lieberman or whatever?
what is it? It's a stupid name. It's like no, not no rules, but no
Yeah, yeah, something
what
like that.
whatever.
Now they've talked about him running, but there's the I forget his, I think his last name's West, Cornel West or
Cornell West. Yeah, he's a
Cornell
African
West.
American guy.
Now there was a poll out, and I know we don't agree with polls, but we still got to talk about him. I think in Michigan, they said that Trump and Biden are head to head, but when West is involved, Trump beats Biden. Now I've heard you talk about the other ones like Manchin. I don't think he has a chance because I don't think he's going to win re-election. The guy and that girl from Arizona, they just hold the Senate hostage. They don't get stuff done. That the best thing that's they're worthless, and I would probably take a Republican over Manchin because he's just as bad.
At least you know what you're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about West? I think I've heard you, and maybe you have talked about West.
I haven't
He
really talked about him. I think he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He's not a politician. I think he'll end up like a lot of these people claiming to be third party or even people being the Republican. There isn't going to be enough interest to gain enough money and they're going to have to bail. It gets
it's
expensive.
You know who his campaign manager is?
Who?
Jill Stein.
Jill Stein?
Yeah,
Well,
and
th- th-
that's what Keith Olbermann said. And I listen to Keith Olbermann. I know he sometimes jokes about stuff, but they hold her a lot of responsible for what happened with Hillary too.
oh yeah, Jill Stein is she wasn't a good candidate, and I don't Cornel West does seem like an intelligent man and on uh, civil rights and stuff like that. He's quite impressive. And I understand why he may want to do it. But the fact is, I don't think any of these people will be in play when we get 6 months or 8 months out from the election.
Okay.
Because again, it takes too much money. I mean, fuck, Donald Trump is running out of money. Donald Trump is having to go to PACs just to pay for legal fees. And that means that money is not going to his campaign. Now, right now, he doesn't need it to get the nomination. But I tell you what, if he is the nominee, and I just don't see how it's possible, money's going to be the big issue. It always is the big issue. These guys getting 2 and 3% in the Republican Party, they all have the same strategy. Ron DeSantis and all these little guys getting 2 and 3%. They're hoping against hope that Donald Trump gets forced out of the election, and then they can get in a scrum and fight over his base. I mean, Ron DeSantis took it to a new level where he said, yeah, I'd pardon Donald Trump. He didn't say that because he likes Donald Trump, because he's betting that Donald Trump will get dumped on his ass. And then Donald Trump's followers will go, well, Ron's going to save our guy, so we're going to vote for him. And I don't think that's true. I think if Donald Trump is out of the mix, I bet today they don't fucking vote because they can't pick anybody that they love better than Donald Trump. They'll just be out of it.
Don't you love it? I think it was Nikki Haley. It was like, yeah, he broke the law and it was a bad day, but I would vote for him.
Yeah.
Or Bill Barr, the guy who stood around and watched all this crap happen, could have done something. Now he goes around all these cable shows and oh yeah, this and that. That dude should have been indicted too, just for helping out.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm hoping that out of nowhere he does get indicted because he did commit some crimes and he should get fucking nailed.
and then you have that John Bolton.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know if it was him or Bill Barr that said it. Well, as much as shit as Trump's done, I'd probably still vote for him. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like finally Mike Pence has an opening. He's unelectable. He's too religious,
Yeah.
and mommy won't let him after not a dark. Uh, Chris Christie, I don't trust any more than I do Trump.
No, he was a
And
horrible governor.
he was a crook when he did that stuff with the bridge, and he
Yeah.
let those two people take the fall. Man,
Yeah.
you should let the Rachel Maddow did a thing on that. Ooh, um, the one and I always tell people your boy when you don't like him, and some people
Yeah.
get pissed when I say that. DeSantis, something just came out now. I saw in actually saw Muscles talking about this, that there was a relief, I think $9 million that his wife raised for
Yeah.
Iowa or something. That money didn't go spent, and it's like, where's that money at?
Well, yeah, that's exactly the point.
Oh, I know, it's on Hunter's laptop. Yes, I found it.
There it is. Right next to the dick pics. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But no, I don't, I don't, I don't see anybody in the Republican Party formidable enough to go against any Democrat. It's
I think
just,
Cornell. I think Wes is a little too. I think people still want kind of a moderate kind of somebody that, oh, it's my way or the highway. I mean, I think Joe is that. He's probably last of a dying breed because after
yeah.
him, it's not going to be that way.
Thank
Um,
God. Thank God we'll be
but
done with the old white men in power. That's a good thing.
yeah, and if the president has term limits, so should Congress. I don't know if I saw it on TikTok and stuff, but our Senator Cancun Cruz,
Yeah.
uh, he tried to he like wants to propose a law about term limits. He's running for his third term,
Yeah. I know.
and it's like, hey man, I'll back you on that video. I'll back you on that if you want to do it. I mean, it's like it. I don't know. It's like Al Roken or not Al Roken. Al Franklin said is like, you know, what is it? Everybody hates Ted Cruz. I like Ted Cruz, and I hate Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
He's got the most punchable face in all of politics. I think when we're talking about any politician, but mostly Republicans, they will say anything to get the proper attention they're looking for. I mean, they don't even have to mean it. They'll like this term limits thing. There's no way he would vote for that, but he'll say it now because they're all about perception. I've said this a million times that Republicans aren't about doing anything. They don't have any substance to what they're doing. It's all about creating a perception or smearing
yes,
somebody like Donald Trump does and like all these fucks do. Yeah, I'm all for term limits, but when it comes down to it, they won't vote for it. I mean, it's like when the House of Representatives would negotiate, the Republicans and Democrats would negotiate, and the Republicans would say, you got to do this and you got to do that. And he would make the Democrats change some things in their bill so the Republicans could be happy about it. And then when it comes up to a vote, they still don't fucking vote for it. I mean, it's like Lucy holding the ball for Charlie Brown. They keep falling on their ass because they keep falling for the same bullshit. There is nothing of substance with the Republican Party. They aren't for anything but winning the election, and they will say anything to win the election. And so they aren't really working for us. They don't really want to do anything at all.
well, look what they're doing now with the debt ceiling that Joe and Kevin McCarthy got
Yeah.
done. Now you have this 2021 people that are in the Freedom Caucus, and it's like it's been proven before with that debt ceiling thing. You don't need them to pass stuff. If
No,
those Republicans would work with the Democrats, it gets done. But old McCarthy, he's got a big headache coming up in September when he comes back. It won't be as bad. I mean, I think a government shutdown is not as bad as a default, but
no,
it's
it's
going to hurt.
not.
It's going to hurt folks. But you know, we're coming up on a year this Congress has been going on, and it's like, what have they done besides the Hunter probes? UFO probes. Showing Hunter's junk to everybody. And can you imagine if Salt was it? Who's the one that they accused of having the affair with the Chinese or the Chinese spy or whatever? The one
Oh, Eric Swalwell.
call if he showed somebody's junk on there. I mean, the Republicans would lose their minds.
Yeah.
But they're afraid of like the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Trumps, and it's like you can defeat these people. I mean, if I'm a moderate Republican, where are my cojones? I'm in a Joe Biden district. The voters are going to remember this.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like, but they've been voting with the Republicans on all this stuff, and it's like not even the moderates have any spine. It's like they're afraid of these 21 people, the Freedom Caucus, that ran off Boehner and read off who's the guy that ran with the other guy, Paul Ryan.
Yeah,
I mean,
Paul Ryan.
it's like stand up, and it's Trump is just and Trump is like an exclamation point. He shows everything right now that's wrong with Republican, but
Right.
now it's just been amplified and the thing about the Republicans, their biggest mistake and why they're going to keep losing elections is that they think the rest of us, like you and me, people that do our research, they think we're as stupid as their followers,
Right.
and
Right.
they think we buy that. That's why they do the Hunter Biden stuff. They throw it out for them because I told you this last time I was on. They honestly believe they're the majority. They think that Richard Nixon majority is still out there because I heard it my Ronald Reagan. I heard that my whole life,
Right.
and I believed it for a long time. But you look at who's won the popular vote in the last few
Well,
years. It's not Republicans.
well, and that's the thing. When you hear Donald Trump say the things he says and what the Republicans say, it's almost as if they really believe it, even though if they looked into it, they'd realize they're wrong. They just want to believe it. So as far as they're concerned, it's true. And that's one of the problems I had, what you were mentioning about the Republicans in the House of Representatives. You've got the MAGA group that's about what, 30, 35 people, and there's 218 Republicans in there. When they first took control, I thought, okay, these people don't like MAGA. They don't want to be associated with MAGA. They'll step away and maybe work on some bipartisan things with the Democrats, but they don't. They roll over and show their belly for MAGA, even though they're just a small group of people. And they had an opportunity with this debt ceiling to step away from MAGA. Kevin McCarthy, they told him if Kevin McCarthy sides with Joe Biden and gets this deal done, MAGA is going to call for a vote of no confidence on Kevin McCarthy. And they didn't. And you know why they didn't? Because they knew they couldn't get it passed. And then they exposed how weak they are. The moment they exposed how weak they are, that's when the moderates should have said, okay, fuck yourself, you're done. But they didn't. They don't have the balls to do that.
And this whole debt ceiling could have been done a lot faster, and we wouldn't have suffered a credit rating decline
Right.
if those so-called moderate Republicans, wouldn't have voted for that first bill that cut everything, that it gave that Freedom Caucus that win, and I don't know what the word is. It empowered them
Right.
to continue this stuff that they had to keep going down. They never would have had this. They had it to where if they just would have said no, it wouldn't have passed. You could have put them out and stepped up there, but no, they went with the Freedom Caucus. The 35 out of 218, ridiculous.
It is pretty ridiculous. And you know what's going to happen is you would think they'd see it now that Donald Trump is going down. There's no question about it. And the Republican Party will follow. You would think that smart, intelligent politicians would say, oh, the end is near. I better step away from this before I get sucked into the vacuum. But they're not. They're sticking with it. And when this all goes down, you're going to have a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, I didn't like Donald Trump. I never stood for that." But you did. And that stink will be on them forever. They'll never be able to get enough tomato juice to get that stink off of them because they will always be connected to Donald Trump. And I've said this about, the politicians and even the Trump Levucks I've met. I had somebody say to me, won't you be glad when this is all over with and we can come together again and be friends? I'm sorry. I can never forgive what they've done because it's so horrific. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you call me a dick or an asshole, you may be right about that. But if you try to overthrow the government, that's kind of hard to forgive. Try to destroy my life, my kid's life, my grandkids' life. That's too far. I don't trust you, and I'm not going to trust you again.
Well, also when you make women carry babies
Yeah.
full term, that it's not so much about an abortion, it's about saving the life of the mother. When you put, when you won't give, migrants water, when you put up devices that kill them. I mean, it's like, how can we go back from this? We're never going to go back from this. I mean, it's where, they talk about a civil war and stuff. They always want to bring that stuff up. I think that's inevitable. I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetime. I'm a little bit younger than you, but there's, I just don't, I mean, you're going to continue to have it. And they're just two Americas. You have your blue and your red states.
Yeah, you do. I don't know. We're going to see some vast changes with the younger voters coming in. We'll see them in 2024. They'll actually be the majority of the biggest voting bloc in 2028. Um, I think we're losing old white races by attrition. Somebody told me this one time, gave me a little chill. They said, "Did you know that 7,000 boomers are dying a day?" Wow. Maybe I shouldn't be a boomer.
On that happy note.
On that happy note, I tell you what, let's take a quick break and
Okay.
we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. On the show today, we have Jace, listener Jace from Texas. We're talking about indictments. We'll talk about Texas here in a little bit because there's all kinds of shit going on down there. But, I think a lot of people saw this indictment from Jack Smith, the one that came out the other day. And some people were disappointed because Donald Trump was the only one indicted. And as I've said before, I think he did that purposely to streamline that whole thing to get Donald Trump's case going quicker. I think Jack is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. I think we're going to see more superseding indictments in the classified documents case and in this latest case with January 6th. I do believe those 6 in the indictment will get indicted. And I really believe, and there was some hints out there today that members of Congress, I think that's the one thing that people are most excited at the prospect of is some of these members of Congress, the House specifically, but even the Senate, that they get indictments. And I think that's key to changing the whole dynamic of this country and tamping down these Republicans. Because once you start indicting them, they aren't going to have the time or the interest in supporting Donald Trump. They'll be trying to save their fucking asses.
Mike, there's just so much going on that, like, I think there's like that criminal case that going against the Trump organization. The girl was talking about how they're ready to go, and you're like, holy crap, I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and it's like, and I think that's kind of what Trump and the Republicans do. They, they're like a monkey that throws their shit at you to get your attention because you won't pay attention to the train wreck that's going on over here. And the media bites a lot of that stuff. But I think with the January 6th case, I remember, and I may have sent you an email on this one. I remember when the documents came out, I was really like, I was really let down. I was like, January 6th should have been sooner. January
Yeah.
6th should have been better. But little did I know that, in the background, that was going to happen. And I think that we started getting hints that, oh, January 6th ain't over. And I think a lot of the Republicans thought that was.
I think so
You know, you,
too.
you have Lindsey Graham and you have Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy was talking about Hillary contesting the 2016 election, along with, who it was his right, Al Gore, in 2000. I mean, that was something that had to do with the state thing. Hillary conceded the thing to Trump that night or the next day or
The
something.
next
I don't
day,
know.
yeah. Yeah,
She wasn't out there, having a stop the steal sign or anything like that. But the thing with the January 6th case is there's no classified documents.
right,
There, in the first case with classified documents, Jack Smith turned all over his shit
right.
to have that. I mean, he'll probably do that. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but he'll probably do that with this one. So it's like, and what I think it was Andrew Weissman. I love listening to that guy.
He's good.
He was just sitting there talking about, how it's like bread and butter. And I think Joyce Vance said that too. It's just, here, here, here. And it's hard for him to come up with because you have, like you said, the Republicans, doing all that stuff. And there's been rumors about, Kushner,
Right,
$2 million boy Kushner, and who's his chief of staff, Mark Meadows.
right.
But there was also a phone call between Trump and McCarthy on that got out too. That they're saying that McCarthy may have flipped, and McCarthy's so stupid he may have flipped and not even known it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I don't know who it was, but you're going to get a lot of gossip and rumors. But it like you said, it's Republicans that turned on his ass. It ain't ain't Nancy Pelosi. She
no,
just kicked
no.
his ass. She just kicked his ass.
Well, yeah, that's true. But with somebody like Mark Meadows, the fact that he's not amongst those 6 co-conspirators, that's very telling. I mean, he was the guy closest to Donald Trump. He was the conduit through which these people were communicating with Donald Trump. He didn't take it directly. They went through Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows knows where all the bodies are buried. And the fact that his name doesn't even come up, that tells you unequivocally that he rolled on Donald Trump. He had to. And he's
And you don't
probably
think
still I don't
you don't think MAGA doesn't know that? You know MAGA knows that because I hear that. Oh, because I mean they think Trump they call Pence a traitor. Ugh,
yeah. Yeah.
you just wait.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, but you know what? I think MAGA's, when this all comes tumbling down, MAGA is going to fall apart too. Meadows just did what he had to do. It was a matter of saving his life. He's still young enough where he thinks he wants a career. Same with Donald Trump's family. They're avoiding him like the plague. But we're going to see more indictments. And I don't think we haven't seen half the bad shit. And we've seen a lot of bad shit about Donald Trump. We haven't seen the half of it. Jack Smith, it's funny when you watch him and you listen to what he's doing, he's really kind of a master of fucking with people's heads, like going into court and sitting there and staring at Donald the whole time. He did that. Doing this order of protection on these documents, he didn't really have to do that, but he's basically saying, we heard you, motherfucker, and you're going to pay now. And when it comes to that new judge, the judge that comes in, this Chutkin woman, she ain't gonna fuck around. He like you say, he may be pushing it as far as he can see it can go, but she's gonna shut him down. It's not like the clown down in Florida. This is totally the opposite of that woman. And this judge in DC is exactly who Donald Trump does not want, because she's the strict teacher that takes no shit. And he's the little boy that's always getting into trouble. He's going to be, they're going to stop that motherfucker cold in that case. And that's the case that's going to take him down.
It's funny. I heard Republicans saying, well, they can't get a fair trial with that judge. You didn't say nothing about the one in Florida that his ass appointed,
No.
and it's like she had the nerve to call him Mr. Trump and
Yeah.
not President Trump. Well, your ass lost in 2020, so you ain't president no more.
Well,
And
and that's
knowing her, she got appointed by Obama. She'd probably call him Mr. Obama too, and not Mr. President.
right.
She'd
Well,
like don't take shit from nobody.
well, the thing is, and I made this mistake too. The judge he saw when he was arraigned wasn't that
Oh,
judge.
that's right. That's right. You're right.
It was a
You're right.
magistrate judge, but that magistrate judge is basically working on the same terms that he knows she will work on.
That's still pretty damn funny that he got
It
pissed
is.
about that. I mean, yeah, you said that now, and I forget about that, but
Well,
I don't know. that judge sat that one that Obama appointed that they're bitching about now. She seems pretty cut and dry. She's been pretty party. She supposedly has given the January, and I don't know if I heard this from you or somebody else, that she's given the people in January 6th, because she's put a lot of them away, more time than what was recommended.
Right. As I understand it, she's done, I think she's done like is it 11 or 17? Say it's 17. But basically, if it's 17, 13 of them, she's given them more time than the DOJ asked for. And the remaining four, she's given them the exact amount of time that the DOJ has offered. She's not going to fuck around. And I know Donald Trump can't help himself because she's going to be so tough. He's going to say some shit, and it's going to be
Well, he already
interesting to see.
is.
Well, I know it's going to be interesting to see how they react. I think that when Jack Smith said this order of protection, I don't think he's as worried about Donald Trump as he wants to send a flag up to the judge and say, "See, this motherfucker has started already."
And he was driving through Washington talking about how crumbled it was. That was a shot at Biden. Bitch, you left the White House 2 years ago. It hadn't gone down that much in 2 years. It was like that when you were there. I mean,
Well,
it's like
but how?
Everything is always just. I mean, he's like Barnum and Bailey. It's like, it's just, I'm the greatest. Only I can fix it. Oh, that guy's the biggest loser. It's like everything is so. I'm a big Kiss fan. The band Kiss.
Yeah,
And I know that Gene Simmons is, he could be, he could be a politician.
yeah,
And I watched some of the stuff from the 70s, and it's like Kiss Alive 2 was their live album. And it's like 1977, you hear the greatest concerts ever recorded in the history of man. That's Trump.
it is.
Everything is, it's like he said that on The Apprentice one time. He was talking about Trace Adkins, country singer. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah,
Good country singer. He's got some good songs. I remember him before I even knew who Trump and really followed Trump. Oh, Trace Atkins. Nobody ever heard of him before me. And it's like, I mean, and that's what he's doing now. It's like,
yeah,
oh, this judge is so corrupt. And I have people that I know in my life, family, they eat that shit up.
yeah,
I mean, it's like that guy, they can do no wrong. It's like, I voted for Joe, I'll vote for him again, but I ain't got no damn flag on the back of my pickup truck.
yeah,
I
yeah.
ain't, I it's just over the top, and I think a lot of people like that. But my God, he is so exhausting, and he ain't going away.
Yeah.
He
Well,
is. It's just begun.
he will go away, but it's going to get messy between now and the time he gets taken down. But the way Donald Trump is, the way Gene Simmons is, it's all stuff I've seen before. I've talked about my father and his narcissistic behavior, and with them, it's always the absolute worst or the absolute best. And 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 that's just how they are. They will say whatever they need to say to benefit themselves or their story or their claims or whatever. And that's what that, to me, when I see him do that, it's so familiar to me and it's such a joke. And like I said, I've known some narcissists in my life. I know how it goes, how it starts,
Yeah.
how they have their time in the sun, but every one of them crash in a heap and burn like a pile of shit every time. And that's what's going to happen to Donald Trump. I said that in 2016. I'll say it now. I never in my wildest dreams thought it would take this long, but I didn't account for an epidemic of fucking stupid in this country.
I got to defend my boy Gene Simmons, though, man. He's self-made, and he's worth something. He has talent, unlike Trump.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in that time and era too, in the 70s, and I was never a huge Kiss fan. I didn't like I like Beth. I like the song Beth. That was a good song. Some of the other ones, I was more into Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin
Oh, yeah.
and that stuff. I just was, I know a lot of friends of mine were Kiss fans. I watched his TV show when he was on. Gene seems like an affable guy, but he's a little arrogant and a little self-centered. But he's not in a position to damage the country or the world. If he wants to do that in his own little world, that's fine. I'm not going to fault him for it. And that's the way people felt about Donald Trump when he was on The Apprentice and when he had his business. Oh, he's goofy, he's funny, he's crazy, he says some horrible shit, but it didn't affect people, all of us anyway. The moment he stepped into this arena, he stepped into a place where he just didn't belong. He couldn't continue his strategies or habits. He should have adjusted. I mean, I think that Barack Obama had an opportunity to be a great president. I think he was a good president. He missed a lot of things. It wasn't always his fault because the Republicans did everything they could to obstruct him. But Donald Trump, when he came in, there were really no expectations. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He could have come off really good. He could have done something about COVID and probably got reelected in 2020. But he can't help himself. He fucks himself over every time because all that matters is him. And he's constantly going after ways to enrich himself. And he makes horrible decisions. He's not a smart man.
Let me ask you a question about, okay, I got a question about Obama and I got a question about Trump. Okay, you say that Obama could have been I mean, I didn't vote for Obama. I voted for McCain. I voted for Romney. I regret voting for Romney. I don't regret voting for McCain. Sarah Palin, that's another story. She brought me kind of out of my stupidness, when I saw her butchering turkeys on TV. So
Yeah.
that's another story. Obama, I remember just being around the whole party. My dad was a member of the Tea Party, which is what MAGA is now.
Right.
And I was always kind of a moderate with, Bush or, McCain. And my dad belonged to the Pat Buchanan part of it.
Yeah.
I never liked Cheney.
Cheney's the fucking devil.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'd still take him over Trump though. Which
Yeah.
is like, you want to die by gunshot or knife wound? Obama, I don't think he was a great president because he didn't, it's not that he didn't try. I respect the hell out of him. And I've always loved Michelle Obama. I read her book. I think she's great.
Yeah.
But I think he was too young. You got to forget how young he was when he became president.
He was.
Then
He's younger than me.
Yeah. Then you look at somebody like Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe has been able to do this stuff because he knows what the hell he's doing. He's not accused of that by the Republicans. But I think Obama, just what he lacked in, like, if he would have, I don't think it was his time. I think it was Hillary's time.
Yeah.
And I think he screwed Hillary out of that. He shouldn't have been involved with that. I think Hillary would have won after Bush.
Yeah.
And I just, and I think that, I think he's a great speaker. I think he's a hell of a man. My thing have changed on him because when I saw that the only reason we got Trump is because of Obama, the racism is apparent. But my question about Trump is, I don't know if I asked a question about Obama, maybe that was it. He's a narcissistic, and I get what you say because my dad was the same way. He was at a party one time, a guy offered him cold beer, and he goes, "No, I like warm beer," just to be a dick. And he's not listening, by the way. He's not with us anymore. But
well, he might be listening.
I won't go there. There's some things I won't touch. Being the narcissistic that he is, and I know nobody can tell him anything. You don't think when nobody's around, which isn't around him now, Melania and them are all gone. He just sits back and, man, I fucked up.
I don't know if he says.
I was going on Fox News talking about how when the Trade Center went down, mine was the tallest building now, just doing stupid like that. And I was a joke, but people despise me now. And I'm in all this shit. You don't think you think he's cocky enough and conceited enough that he can't come to that clarity? Like, I wish I was never in this shit.
No, I don't, because, that is what he has is a sickness. And I've seen it, like I say, with my father and such. It's like when people say, well, he's going to commit suicide. No, he's not. He's a narcissist. He thinks he's the greatest person in the world. He'd shoot somebody else before he'd shoot himself. But I think you got to understand where this narcissism and all this boisterous stuff comes from. It comes from immense insecurity. And his protection from that insecurity is to do the stuff he does. And I think even behind the scenes, it's almost as if he believes the things he says. I mean, there are certain people in this world that when it comes out of their mouth, it's as if it came directly from Jesus. And just because they said it, it's got to be true. And I think that's where he's at. I think the next stage isn't saying, "Oh, I fucked up, man." He'll never do that. He'll never be contrite about that at all. But he'll get to the point where he's out of control completely, and then he'll become the victim, and he'll be whiny and bitchy and crying and asking, begging people for not for forgiveness, but trying to get sympathy. That's the two areas they go. They're either loud and boisterous and in your face, or they're playing the victim. That's the only two things they can do. The middle ground makes common sense, but they don't know anything about common sense. They can never step back. And it seems like a large part of the Republicans in general have that same problem. I don't know that they're all narcissists, but they bought into Donald Trump's game.
Yeah, and you look at somebody like Al Franken that just took a picture as a joke and he stepped down. Trump's already asking for forgiveness. He's trying to get the Supreme Court. Don't you have to go through trials to get to the Supreme Court? That's what they did with Roe versus Wade.
Well,
I
that
don't
tells
think
you
he's
how that
yeah.
tells you how desperate he is. He's going to the Supreme Court. Please help me with this, save me. But you're right. The only way the Supreme Court can come into play is if he goes to trial, he gets convicted, he appeals, and then he appeals to the Supreme Court. That's the only way the Supreme Court can have any but he thought he was king, and he thinks the Supreme Court can just swoop in and say, "This is bad, leave our boy alone, stop the federal trials." They can't do that. They wouldn't do that. But Donald Trump is waiting for that big hero to save him, because he's always had somebody to bail him out, and he's got nobody big enough to bail out. So he's looking to the Supreme Court, and that's absolutely desperation, because he's got no hope there.
And he's so stupid, like you said, that when the Republicans didn't have the red wave, he told them flat out, it's like, well, y'all is because of Roe versus Wade.
And he was right.
He was right. But then again, 6 more months, hey, I did Roe versus Wade. I got rid of Roe versus Wade. And they say Joe, he called Iraq instead of it being, he called it, what did he say, Iraq instead of where are we at, the Russia's at war with now?
Ukraine.
He said Russia instead of Ukraine, or Iraq instead of Ukraine, and the media jumps all over that. But it's like we were talking about earlier. Trump just talks about how, well, you lost because of Roe versus Wade and overturning it, but I'm the president that did it. I'm like, am I missing something here?
But then he steps back on abortion.
Yes.
It's what he does. He will say anything to get the votes and get the applause and the adulation. He thrives on that. I mean, but he's having problems. He went to Pennsylvania, did his little rally. He got 4,000 people show up. Now he's going to tell you it's 40,000, but the fact is it was 4,000. This guy is having some money problems. He's having some support problems. People see him as too much baggage. And I think he's starting to feel that. See, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you're going through a bad stretch with money, and you're kind of desperate. And you start
every day.
but you start stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and you're balancing and you're juggling stuff, and you can get by for a period of time, but ultimately it comes crashing down on you. That's where Donald Trump is with money. He's not getting the money that he needs to bring in. He's having to steal from his campaigns to pay for legal fees. And the thing about it is, if he paid $40 million in legal fees in the first 6 months, it's going to get worse in the next 6 months when he goes to trial and all that stuff. It's going to be 80 million, and he's not going to be able to collect the money. He is going to be in a financial crisis in the next 6 months. I'm just convinced about it, if not before.
Well, Mike, I've seen your followers on TikTok, man. I think you could pull in more than 4,000 if you had a meet and greet, man. Let's have a Rational Boomer rally, brother.
Somebody mentioned that to me, and I said, I don't know that I could pull in a crowd of people worthy of it in any given place. I mean, I'd love to go out and meet people. But I'd go to a Best Western in some city and 4 people would show up, and I'd be happy to see them. But I hate to waste people's time of coming out to a fucking rally worse than Donald Trump, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I I've learned something in this town. You give away something for free, people will show up. Like they give away like free like fans for people that don't have air conditioner. And there's people coming from the rich part of town getting a fan.
Yeah, oh yeah,
And I'm like, and there was something that they were giving away PlayStations. I think recently, and there were like thousands of people standing in line for like one PlayStation.
oh yeah.
I don't stand in line for nothing.
No, I
I
don't
go to a
either.
restaurant and there's a line. No, we go to somewhere else down here. I don't need to stand in line. I don't do lines.
I agree. I don't like standing in lines. The only time I will ever stand in line in the future is if I take my granddaughter to Disney World, which I probably won't do as long as Florida is in the state it is. I don't feel like my granddaughter would be safe in Florida, but maybe go to California, go to Disneyland. But those standing in line just, and they used to do it for the Trump rallies too. They stand outside. Uh, but if you want to question whether Donald Trump has support or not, Donald Trump is trying so hard to get his people out to fight for him. And they said, oh boy, this thing in Washington, D.C., this is going to be a problem. It could be a civil war. We're going after him. But it didn't happen in New York. It didn't happen in Florida. It didn't happen in D.C. This whole idea of the violence tied to something happened to Donald Trump. I hope we can be done with that, because if it was going to happen, it would have happened. But they just don't have the courage to do it. They don't have this thing gamed because Donald Trump's not in charge to protect him. They know they're going to run into some serious shit if they try it again. And the whole idea of violence in this country, whether he's indicted, arraigned, or even convicted, that shit's just not going to happen. They don't have the courage to do it.
If it would have happened anywhere, it would have been Florida.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I was telling to somebody, I have a friend of mine that actually is traveling in Florida, and I was talking to my boss about that, and I go, yeah, a buddy of mine has a podcast, listening to him, and he was saying, there's a leprosy outbreak, and there's two things about leprosy I know. One, it's in the Bible, and the other thing, it's not good.
Well, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
who ever heard of leprosy in current times? I've never heard of it. And
Well, down here they have armadillos. I don't know if you've heard of an armadillo.
yeah,
Yeah, they have they carry leprosy. I don't know. That's what somebody told me, but it's never. I mean, you always see them on the side of the road and stuff, but they supposed to carry leprosy. So these diseases have not. What it is people not getting their vaccines probably, or
yeah,
not getting because they said polio was coming back. I mean, we had that wiped out, but some Beth or Jolene on Facebook said that it'll give you 3 heads, but don't listen to your doctor or nothing like that.
no, no. I've had four or five vaccines, and I'm perfect. I couldn't be healthier. I'm healthier than I ever was. But with regards, I didn't hear that about the armadillo carrying leprosy. So just a tip down to those Trumplefucks in Florida: stop having sex with armadillos. It's not safe.
I tell you what, Mike, when COVID was going out and I got my first booster, uh, I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't have any hair.
Yeah, I got very little too.
I don't know if you heard of Joe Dirt,
Yeah,
that David Spade movie.
yeah.
Well, I got my first shot, and of course, I checked in Facebook. Hey, I got my shot, and I literally I put a picture. I got a little thing of my before and after, and I put the Joe Dirt wig on me, and I put on there, hey, good results so far, no bad. And I swear to God, Mike, I got like 3 or 4 of my friends that I had to block
Yeah.
because they kept going after me about the COVID vaccine and how, I mean, I'm 51-year old, you know, I, I'm not that important, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm not the rational boomer. I don't have, thousands of followers, dude.
Well, I'm not
Come
that
on.
important either, but
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like, am I really that important to where? And when I was younger, I was Republican. I was conspiracy. I listened to all this stuff, and I got older and older, and I was like, man, this is. I mean, I remember with Fox News, it's like the Barbie thing. It's like the Bud Light. There's always something to be so pissed off about.
Or
And
afraid of.
it's like, it's exhausting. And it was like, I got, I think that happened to it too. I got fatigued with it because it was always a crisis. It's like when Trump was president, oh, there's a caravan coming, must be an election year. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's like they keep this going on. And when I stepped away from it, it was like, God, and it's like, oh, you're a heathen. And like, that doesn't hurt my feelings. You can call me what you want to. But I mean, that's one of the things that really, it's so exhausting. And it's like, I try not to listen to that stuff now, but there's something with Barbie there. And I see my friends doing this, but with the
Well,
vaccine,
I used to
it's
listen.
like
I used to listen to
crazy.
that stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
You'd listen to Coast and you'd hear about UFOs and you'd hear about paranormal shit. What does it say about our country when we've got all the shit going on with politics and somebody goes to a hearing in Congress and says, yeah, there's space aliens and we've done this and we've got crashes and nobody gives a shit. Nobody
Well,
cares.
I think people see through it because I'll admit something. I mean, I've always liked the paranormal. I loved Art Bell back in the day.
I did too.
And I liked him until he became, in his later years, he started liking Trump. And
Yeah.
I quit listening to him. He, I have a friend of mine that's really into UFOs. And if there's one thing that scares me, it's UFOs because that's like the one thing that will make us all unite.
Yeah.
Is because if you have, I think Tyson or who's that guy said, yeah, you see a freaking space alien up there and they're trying to like take our water, they're trying to destroy our planet. Yeah, we'll get together, then it'll take something like that. It's going to have to be more than 9/11. But I had a friend of mine, I was, hey, what do you think about those hearings and stuff? And he goes, well, you say it was in order, right? I go, what do you mean? He goes, it's just another distraction.
Yeah. Probably
Their
true.
boy is going down, like you say, and it's a distraction. It's Hunter's lap. I think they found a picture of a UFO on Hunter's laptop, and that's what brought this about. Because
And
everything goes back to Hunter, dude. It's like this all this AI shit. Everything goes back to Terminator. It all started with Hunter's laptop.
yeah,
That's
it's a
what we become.
well, everything about Republicans is about fear and that's how they, it's kind of like religion. Scare the shit out of you so you fall in line and do what we want you to do. I got to bring up Texas since you live in Texas. What the fuck, dude? You got some fucked up shit going down in Texas. I mean, that governor of yours is a special kind of piece of shit.
I claim no responsibility for this.
I
Texas,
get you.
Texas, Texas has become. Texas is I don't want to give Florida too much credit, but I think Texas is the worst state. They just got voted the worst state.
Really.
There's Yeah, they're the worst place to live. Some poll came out, or
And it's too bad. Texas is a beautiful place. I
they have a
love San
lot.
Antonio. I love Corpus
There
Christi.
there's a lot of good people in Texas, and I have friends that they're Republicans, but they're not Trumplophobes. But they'll vote for him because he's a Republican. And of
Yeah.
course, Joe, they got to go about Sleepy Joe.
Yeah.
Texas's biggest problem is we don't vote.
Really?
You had all those crowds for Beto, but I guarantee you that those people didn't vote.
Really?
And yeah, people. I mean, he even said it. Beto said Texas doesn't have a blue problem; they have a non-voting problem.
Right.
And it's just people. And they did something to where Abbott did something to he targeted uh, the Houston area, which is the biggest like voting block, and a lot of minorities in Houston. So they have it to where they're in charge of the elections. Well, they're getting sued on that. They also did this thing called the Death Star bill, to where like San Antonio, if we want to put in like if we want to make it okay for people to have water, the state can override that, which they did. Which
Wow.
they're doing that now. I think Houston and San Antonio are both suing it. But you have a lot of people keep talking about Texas that, oh, the Latino is the majority. You have a lot of Latinos down here that are Republican, and
Yeah.
I
I
think
never understood that. I never understood that.
well, I under I understand it, but I don't understand it because it's funny when people. I don't know if you've noticed, Mike, but I'm white.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
noticed
know,
that right off. I was going to mention it, but I didn't
okay,
want to embarrass you.
okay. So I mean, I got a secret for everybody. But people come up to me and they just, just give me the most racist, right wing stuff. And I've heard racist jokes my whole life,
Oh,
you
so we
know,
all have. Yeah.
and it's like, but it's like it's gotten worse because it's like it's not a joke anymore. I mean, there's jokes, all people joke about that, other races joke about stuff, but this is racism, and it's always been there. I
Yeah.
grew up with it around here. I've seen it, and it's like I've seen it, but it's like they come up to me and like, wow, you're a Democrat, and people I haven't seen in 20 years, like, wow, you're a Democrat, because I wasn't, but I have a lot of Hispanic friends, and they're because they don't view themselves the same as migrants. A lot of them, they look down upon migrants. I'm not saying all of them do, but there's a big kind of, they see themselves as different than that. I see everybody as a human being. If a
Well,
human being needs something,
it
but the
sounds like
Republic,
it's kind of like how you will have in the African American um, community that you will have some some African Americans that are racist against other African Americans. And I guess it happens with white and all this stuff, but
oh yeah, the
um,
whole white trash thing. Oh, the whole white.
yeah,
I mean, I'm totally guilty of that. Look, I'm not white trash, but
yeah, but we
I
have some
mean,
white trash. They all happen to vote Republican, but what the fuck? But
I just think it's the Republicans have done a better job. I think the Democrats for a long time, excuse me, we don't have the Ann Richards down here.
right,
They don't look at Beto as a viable candidate, excuse me, against Abbott, which I don't get. Beto had a record where he got a DWI or busted with pot or something, but they'll hold that against him, but not the stuff that other ones do. And I
well,
just think that most men, and men are very proud, and they don't want to be called Democrats. I mean, I used to make fun of Democrats. Oh, that's a bunch of pansies, and they
yeah.
associate the Democrats with the LGBT and stuff like that. That, oh yeah, that's what and their fathers voted that way. So I think that's a lot of it is too.
It's funny. I get that a lot too. They talk about Democrats being pansies and whatever. But I beg those motherfuckers to come on the show and show me how tough you are. Set me straight, and they won't do it. They talk big, but they don't really back anything up. They only know what they know. They aren't willing to learn anything or be open to anything. And Texas has that uh, kind of reputation, the tough cowboy type, and they're very conservative. And I had this argument with somebody recently. They say I vote for Donald Trump and the Republicans because I'm conservative. Well, that makes no sense because Republicans aren't conservative. If they were conservative, they wouldn't have added $7 trillion to the debt. They wouldn't send $2 trillion to the rich. If you're conservative, you're conservative. I'm fine with not spending money recklessly, but that's not the case with them. It's not about spending money recklessly. It's about not spending money recklessly to the place it belongs. They're happy to just throw it away in the defense budget and the wealthy people and themselves. It's like the law thing, they're big rule of law guys, but they aren't for rule of law when it has to do with them. Everybody else needs to follow rule of law, but we should be able to get away with anything. And that's the big problem with the Republicans. They're hypocrites to the core. They just fucking ridiculous.
I'll say something that I don't know if your listeners will agree with this because they may look at things differently. But as somebody that used to call themselves a conservative, I was in that thing. Well, I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative.
Right.
I love Ronald Reagan. I fear God. I go to church. Well, go to church. Well, sometimes on Sunday.
Yeah.
Uh, only drink 6 days of the week. There's no such thing as being a conservative.
No.
There's a guy in the Lincoln Project, and I always forget his name, but I read his book, and he wrote a book called "It Was All a Lie." and he talked about, and I just was like, God, this is my autobiography. Because if you go back to the days of Reagan, yeah, I like small government unless it came from the military. You know, I, you know, I want to draft kids, not Reagan, but I won't want kids to go in the service except my kids. I mean, it's not, and Newt Gingrich supposedly led the, Republican or conservative, and I'll hate to say this, and I cringe every time I see him on TV, but God damn, I was a Newt Gingrich fan. I was like, yeah,
Oh
I
well,
voted
well,
for Clinton.
look at the
I vote,
look at the time.
yeah,
We got to go.
yeah. But I say I was,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, there's no such thing as being a conservative. There's liberals,
Yeah.
but the conservative thing, it's all about power, and I'm convinced of that.
See, I don't consider myself liberal or conservative or anything. As somebody who's worked in business, if I'm putting money out for something, I expect to get something back. And if I'm paying taxes, there better be some return on those taxes. Uh, I'm all, you want to talk about small government? Okay, let's talk about small government. But then my taxes should be real small too, but
Oh
they
yeah.
aren't, because my taxes are used to fund defense budgets and wealthy people's tax breaks and stuff like that. Small government is fine if you really want to do that, but if we're going to pay as much income tax as we do and all the other taxes we pay, we should get something in return. And this is what I don't understand, and where I think Republicans make a mistake. If you're an investor and you have a portfolio, I've said this a million times, you have one part of your portfolio that is the best performing, returns the best in money, and you have another part of your portfolio that doesn't return anything. Where do you put your money? What do you try to help flourish? The place that's being the most productive. It's just the opposite with them. They give the money where there's no return, and they take the money where the most money comes out of. Now, the problem is when you go to the well and you keep going to the well, eventually the well's going to dry up. And then guess what? Not only are the middle class fucked, but the rich people in the government, because they got no place to grift money from anymore. It's so short-sighted. They should be pouring money into the middle class to make the middle class strong so they can continue to work, make more money, pay more taxes so we can do more shit. That's common sense, but nobody's willing to look at that, especially the Republicans. But you know what? The Democrats aren't much better. Prior to Donald Trump, they did a lot of the same things the Republicans did. They were comparable to the Republicans, just in a different way. Now they're acting like they want to help us, and I hope that's true. But my concern is, if they get the House and they get the Senate and they get the presidency, are they going to sit back and go, "Yeah, we don't have to do anything now. We'll just placate our wealthy people"? And if you don't think they're going to do that, all I have to do is say, how many times did you have the chance to codify Roe v. Wade and you didn't do it? Meaning the Democrats. So somebody said that to me. They said, "What are you going to do if Donald Trump goes down? You'll have nothing to talk about." Oh no. Oh no, I have plenty to talk about, because I don't see it as Democrats versus Republicans. I see it us against them. And we need to keep pounding on them, whether they be Democrat or Republican, to make sure we get our due.
Let me ask you one question, Mike.
Sure.
On that thing, you said, the Democrats, but you're also talking about Gen Z. Do you think this new generation is going to be better at running the government, or than the Mitch McConnells and all of them? Because there was a study coming out saying that most high schoolers, and it could be are most high school boys, and the Democrats supposedly have a problem with, like we were saying, attracting straight men. I mean, you say Gen Z is going to be different. What about the Republican side? How do you think they're going to be?
Uh, you know, I've heard that too. Well, the Gen Zs might do this, they might do that. I'll put it to you this way: Gen Zs and millennials, they aren't going to be worse than us. They aren't going to be worse. And secondly, you know, I hear people trying to determine what way Gen Z is going to go. And, you know, we're talking about young kids, and I'm thinking about the time when I was about that age. I didn't think about politics. Hell, in 1980, I voted for the presidency for the first time. I voted for Reagan because the economy sucked under Carter. I didn't know shit about shit. They don't, they won't know anything other than, you know, where's the nearest dispensary or how much what kind of deal I can get on beer. I mean, that's what I was thinking about when I was 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I voted for Reagan. I didn't think twice about it. I did it because I'd never done it before. It's hard to say to predict what the Gen Zs are going to do is kind of a folly because we don't know. A lot's going to determine is what everybody thinks and what everybody does is based on their experience. Now, these Gen Zs are getting ready to vote. The experiences they're going to be having is what they're seeing right now with these indictments and these charges and all the shit. I mean, I was 12 years old when Watergate happened. I didn't know a lot then, but I watched every bit of it because it was interesting, and that helped me form some opinions of things that, you know, basically all politicians suck and they're all criminals. So I think whatever they experience between now and the time they can vote, and whether it be 2024 or 2028, is really going to have some bearing on what they think and how they vote. But then again, I've said this about young men. Having been a young man and having had two sons, when you're in your 20s, a young man has way more testosterone than they do have intellectual power. That's just the way it is. So you can't even say, are they going to make the right choices or bad choices? I don't know. You know, but the one thing I hope they understand is they're the ones that are going to determine their destiny. And as long as we old white men, you know, think about the abortion thing. Everybody against the abortion issue, everybody voting against the abortion issue, first of all, isn't having kids and probably not having sex. So it's stupid. That's like going to the plumber and say, fix my car. What the fuck is that?
Well, all I can say, Mike, is if if there's any hope for any of them, look at me. Hell, I
Yeah.
voted for Clinton my first time, then went to a dark thing, and I came back and voted for his wife. And hey, man, so if there's hope for me, hey, man, maybe this country has some hope.
I just think that after we get through this whole thing with Donald Trump and the Republicans, we're going to see a vastly different country. And I think it's going to be better because all these things we're seeing now that have come to the surface are things that have been bubbling under for decades. If Donald Trump did anything positive for this country, it was he exposed the racism, the prejudice, the corruption, and the criminality. And now we have to deal with it, as opposed to just say, oh, it's not there. I don't see it. It's not there. Now he brought it to the top, and now we have to deal with it. It's just a matter of what we do and how we deal with it. And hopefully we can address it and do something about it as opposed to just ignore it like we have for decades.
And if you're right too, because like the Democrats take power, got to keep an eye on them because honestly, the country is better with two parties that are different
Absolutely.
because you don't necessarily believe everything I do and vice versa. So, it's, and if we all wanted that to happen, we just vote Republican. If we wanted that, we just have that's why Trump loves Stalin, Putin, and all them is because he don't have to answer for that. Don't like the rules? Hey, I'll change them.
Well,
That's exactly what he want to do.
because people of all parties can be corrupted when they have power. We need the checks and balances, and without two strong parties, there are no checks and balances,
Correct.
and that's going to be as big a problem as we have now. So, as much as I know it's going to take some time for the Republicans to come back, I'm rooting for them to come back and learn a lesson from what they did wrong now, and maybe come back better for it. I'm not convinced that they can do it. Maybe another party comes out of it. I mean, some people suggested that it may end up being the moderate or centrist Democrats end up being the Republicans, and the progressives become the liberals, and those are the two parties. I mean,
Mike, I got an idea.
yeah,
I think me and you, we bring back the wig party, brother.
Yeah, no shit. I don't even know what the Whig Party was about, but clearly we both could use one. Um, but yeah, yeah. I think we're in for some dramatic changes, and I think the young people coming in will make those changes. I don't know that they'll make the right moves all the time, but it's like any kid coming up. You're going to make mistakes, and hopefully you learn from the mistakes. You pivot and try another angle. Somebody was talking to me about reincarnation, and they go, "What do you want to come back as?" I go, "I don't want to fucking come back. This shit's hard. Shit's fucking hard, man. I want to relax.
Yeah.
I don't need to do this again." Well, we're coming to that time, Jace. I appreciate you coming in and talking. It's
Hey,
always more entertaining for me when I have somebody to talk to.
I appreciate the invite, man. I tell you what, man. I like I said, I listen to you in the morning going to work, and when I'm feeling kind of down, I mean, I check your TikTok. I go on there. You're one of my searches to check it, and I don't smoke anymore. I quit about 10 years ago because my smoke break is checking out the Rational Boomer.
Wow,
So,
thank
but
you.
but I appreciate everything you're doing, man, and I'm making up for all them Rush Limbaugh years with you, man, because you're on the other side of that shit.
Well, when he first came on, I listened to Rush Limbaugh too, because this was back in the 80s and there wasn't the divisiveness. As a young guy in broadcasting, I was intrigued and impressed by a guy who said, "Fuck it, I'm going to do it by myself." And he built up a listenership. And I was impressed by that. I didn't really listen to what he said, but I listened to how he said it. And I understood that that's what was connecting with people. But, he's like all the other far right people. They went off the fucking deep end into conspiracy theory Nazi shit. And that's when it got too far. But
Yeah. I'm glad I mean, like I said, I was freaking out about the red wave, and I found your TikTok and reached out to you, came on the show, became friends, man. But I mean, I'm glad the whole TikTok banning bullshit's gone away.
yeah, I
I
knew
think
that wasn't going to
yeah.
happen.
So because I enjoy TikTok, because I listen to my Rational Boomer and learn something political, then I can figure out how to drain my water heater. TikTok's all there.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing, I told, I think the last show I told whoever was on that, I'd check all the news sources and such. And, that's how I'd get stories. And then I'd dig into those stories, and that's what my topics would be. But now I'm almost getting more tips on news stories from
Yeah.
TikTok. I can go through TikTok, get a tip. I'm not going to take their story because fucking TikTokers, you're not going to believe that shit. But but there was a story that came out about this movie, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, I saw your thing on that. Yeah.
Right. And I caught on to that from another TikToker was talking about that. And I go, that can't be fucking true. But if it is, it's interesting. So then I spent some time, I dug into AP and NPR and all this other stuff. And fuck if it isn't true. So then I formulated what I knew about the story. I got the tip from TikTok, and then I formulated the story based on what the facts were saying. And I get more tips from TikTok lately. It's great. I watch a lot of TikToks. I get
And it
bored
was
with a lot of TikToks, but I watch a lot of them.
it was funny. I noticed about that guy that got arrested. He was neither LGBT or trans, was he?
No, no.
Wow,
But
imagine that.
but he did try to kidnap a child, and he was an investor in that movie, Sound of Freedom. So what the
I
fuck?
heard I heard my Republican friends talking about that. And have you seen that? And I listened to a couple podcasts. They were talking about it, how it's just a QAnon stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, and of course, I had to text one of my friends, "Hey, did you see this?" Just kind of, she's a Trump thing. I go, "Hey, very interesting. What's this about?" You know where they found it? Hunter's laptop.
That's right. That's right. That's right. They are so entranced with Hunter Biden's dick. I don't get it.
Man.
Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Jace, for coming on. You're welcome anytime. It's always fun to do the show with you. For the people listening, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.